Have we ever paused to consider how the state of our environment has shifted over the years? In the grand tapestry of history, the rise of environmental awareness is a relatively recent thread. It's a story that begins in earnest with the late 19th and early 20th centuries, a time of unprecedented change and development. The world was rapidly industrializing, and with this industrial revolution came a shift in our relationship with nature. In the smokestack cities of the Industrial Revolution, the quality of air and water began to decline. Coal-powered factories belched out black smoke, painting the sky with soot and ash. Rivers, once clear and vibrant, grew murky with industrial waste. But it was not just the visible damage that sparked concern. Scientists began to understand the invisible harms too. They noticed changes in the composition of the air, the acidity of the rain, and the health of the people and wildlife. It was during this time that some forward-thinking individuals began to raise their voices. They were the early environmental pioneers who saw the degradation of the natural world and felt compelled to act. People like John Muir, who championed the creation of national parks, and Rachel Carson, who warned of the dangers of pesticides in her groundbreaking book, Silent Spring. Their work laid the groundwork for the environmental movement we know today. These pioneers' efforts led to the establishment of the first environmental protection agencies. Governments started recognizing the need for regulation and action. They began to pass laws and establish agencies dedicated to protecting the environment. Institutions like the United States Environmental Protection Agency, established in the early 1970s, marked a significant step forward in environmental protection. As we look back on this period of history, we see the birth of a new consciousness, a realization that our actions affect the world around us in profound and lasting ways, a recognition that we have a responsibility to protect and preserve the natural world for future generations. And thus began the journey of environmental awareness, a path fraught with challenges. As awareness grew, so did the realization of the damage already inflicted. Among the earliest environmental issues that came into focus were air and water pollution. These were not just theoretical concerns, they were tangible problems that could be seen, smelled, and tasted. Let's take a step back to the year 1952, to the bustling city of London. It was here that the infamous smog incident occurred, shrouding the city in a thick, toxic fog for 5 days. This was not an isolated incident. Rather, it was a stark reminder of the dangers of uncontrolled industrial emissions. The city was paralyzed with visibility reduced to a few feet, but more tragically, it claimed the lives of approximately 4,000 people. Moving across the Atlantic, let's consider the year 1969 in the United States. The Cuyahoga River, once a life-giving waterway, caught fire due to the high levels of industrial pollutants. This shocking event served as a wake-up call for the nation, sparking outrage and prompting significant policy changes. These incidents were catalysts for change. In response to the London smog, the United Kingdom passed the Clean Air Act in 1956, setting a precedent for regulating industrial emissions. Similarly, following the Cuyahoga River fire, the United States enacted the Clean Water Act in 1972. These measures were not just about controlling pollution, they were about safeguarding public health and protecting the environment for future generations. These laws were significant not only for the direct impact, but also for the precedent they set. They demonstrated that governments could and should play a role in mitigating environmental damage. They showed that it was possible to balance industrial progress with environmental protection. These initial steps laid the groundwork for tackling more complex environmental issues. They reminded us that we are not powerless in the face of environmental challenges. With awareness, determination, and collective action, we can make a difference. And so, the journey towards environmental responsibility and sustainability continued. The 1970s and 80s saw the world grappling with new, invisible threats. As we journeyed through these decades, we began to understand that not all dangers to our environment were as visible as smog-laden skies or oil-slicked waters. Two of these invisible threats were the depletion of the ozone layer and the phenomenon of acid rain. The ozone layer, a protective shield in the Earth's stratosphere, was discovered to be thinning, with a significant hole forming over Antarctica. This depletion was traced back to the extensive use of certain man-made chemicals, notably chlorofluorocarbons or CFCs, which were common in refrigeration, air conditioning, and aerosol products. But what did this mean for us? The ozone layer plays a crucial role in absorbing most of the sun's harmful ultraviolet radiation. Without it, we would be more exposed to these harmful rays, leading to health issues like skin cancer and cataracts, and damaging ecosystems, particularly marine ones that are sensitive to changes in UV levels. Meanwhile, we were also coming to grips with acid rain, precipitation carrying high levels of sulfuric and nitric acids, primarily from industrial emissions. Acid rain could cause extensive damage to forests, soils, fresh waters, and even buildings and monuments, in addition to harming wildlife. These invisible threats sparked global alarm, leading to unprecedented international cooperation. The Montreal Protocol, agreed upon in 1987, was a landmark agreement to phase out the production of the substances that were depleting the ozone layer. Today, thanks to this cooperation, the ozone layer is slowly recovering. Efforts to tackle acid rain were also initiated, with legislation like the Acid Precipitation Act. This aimed to reduce sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide emissions, the key contributors to acid rain, leading to substantial reductions in acid rain levels. These challenges showed us just how interconnected our planet truly is. They underscored the reality that our actions, even those not immediately visible or seemingly insignificant, can have far-reaching impacts on our shared environment. In recent decades, the specter of climate change has loomed large. The world as we know it is transforming right before our very eyes. The once vast and icy poles are slowly melting away, with glaciers retreating at an alarming pace. Forests that have stood for centuries are now being consumed by unprecedented wildfires, and extreme weather events are becoming the new normal. This is the face of climate change and global warming, a harsh reality that is now universally recognized by scientists around the globe. The scientific consensus is strong and clear. Our planet is warming, and human activities are largely to blame. The burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, and industrial processes are pumping massive amounts of greenhouse gases into our atmosphere, trapping heat and driving up global temperatures. But as our understanding of climate change has grown, so too has our resolve to tackle this global crisis. In the last 3 decades, we've seen the emergence of international agreements aimed at curbing greenhouse gas emissions. The Paris Agreement, a landmark deal struck by nearly 200 nations in 2015, represents a collective commitment to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Yet, the path to achieving this goal is fraught with challenges. Despite the commitments made under the Paris Agreement, greenhouse gas emissions continue to rise. The task ahead is enormous. It requires profound changes in the way we generate energy, produce goods, manage our lands, and conduct our everyday lives. Efforts to transition to a low-carbon economy are underway. Nations are investing in renewable energy sources, businesses are exploring cleaner production methods, and individuals are taking steps to reduce their carbon footprints. Yet, we need to accelerate these efforts. The window of opportunity to prevent catastrophic climate change is closing rapidly. The stakes are high. The impacts of climate change are already being felt across the globe, threatening our ecosystems, economies, and communities. But we can still change the course of our future. We have the knowledge, the tools, and the power to make a difference. As we face these unprecedented challenges, the need for action has never been more urgent. From the soot-filled skies of the Industrial Revolution to the invisible threat of climate change, our environmental journey has been a long one. This journey, as we've seen, has been marked by a growing awareness of our relationship with the environment and the impact we've had on it. We've traced the rise of environmental consciousness from a time when we saw the world as an infinite resource to the present day, where we understand the intricate balance that sustains life on Earth. We've seen how this awareness has been shaped by the challenges we've faced: the smog of industrialization, the toxic rivers and lakes, and the silent, invisible threats that lurk in our atmosphere. We've delved into the early pollution issues, where we were forced to confront the tangible effects of our industrial progress. The toxic fumes and waste that were once seen as a necessary byproduct of prosperity became a stark reminder of the price we were paying for it. We've journeyed through the story of the ozone layer and acid rain, where we saw how our actions could reach far beyond our immediate surroundings, impacting the very air we breathe and the water that sustains us. It was a lesson in cause and effect, showing us that what we release into the environment inevitably comes back to us. And finally, we've discussed the current focus on climate change and global warming. These are the invisible threats, the slow-moving yet relentless forces that are reshaping our world. They've brought us to a critical point in our journey, a point where we can no longer afford to be passive observers. The story of our environment is a story of change, of growth, and of understanding. It's a story that's still being written, and we are the authors. The future of our planet hangs in the balance. The question is, are we ready to take the necessary steps to safeguard it?